Welcome back to the channel. This is Trinity Storm and you are watching third part of What If Naruto Has a Counter Personality. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Temari's victory was talked about in the arena for an hour without getting anywhere. Then, in the distance, there was a commotion, and the three brothers in the arena jumped as if on cue. Naruto came up behind them and jumped. Sakura jumped up behind him and asked, "What are you doing, Naruto?" "They are coming to take over. Go find Kakashi-sensei and Sasuke. I'll take care of Gaara." Naruto looked at Shino and Shikamaru, who had jumped next to Sakura and Hinata, and said, "He is the biggest threat to the village." Naruto looked at Temari and Kankuro and said, "You two follow that pair. I don't want them to just wander around aimlessly. Hinata, go to the village. I've left clones there to help you," Naruto told her. Then, without further ado, the Kyuubi's chakra wrapped around him, putting him in Sage mode and opening 2 of the 8 gates at the same time. So, Naruto caught up with Gaara in the blink of an eye, before he left the Colosseum and went into the forest. In a flash of light, Naruto pulled Gaara along with him. Temari and Kankuro could only watch as they went into the forest. "Let me go, let me go." Gaara screamed and tried to lock him up with his sand. Naruto, on the other hand, had the mantle of the Kyuubi, Sage mode, and 2 of the 8 open gates. Gaara was like a small puppy in his hands. Naruto went several kilometers in less than a minute and let Gaara go in the middle of the forest. Now, both of them were standing on a big branch of a tree. "I think we can talk calmly now, Brother Panda," Naruto said in a calm voice. 5 meters separated them. Gaara's answer was to send a wave of sand at Naruto, which Naruto easily stopped with one of his 9 tails. "Brother Panda, don't think I'm not strong. If you want to fight me, you have to use Shukaku's power," Naruto told him, indicating that he should take his time calling up Shukaku. Gaara gave him an angry look, but he locked himself in his sand sphere and let Shukaku out. Kurama asked, "What's the point? Shukaku is not my rival, and if we're together, he won't be able to do anything." "That boy is also not like you," he said. "If I catch him now and tell him what's going on, he'll understand, and I think Shukaku will also help. But if I do that, Gaara's village will see him as a traitor, so I have to beat him first. When he can't do anything to hurt us, we'll talk. Then he won't have to worry about his honor and reputation," Naruto said. "Humans make their own lives too hard," Kurama said with a sigh. One of the clones Naruto left behind was killed by a big snake, but it didn't matter because 4 other clones were already coming toward it with the Rasengan. Naruto didn't worry about the invasion because he had left a lot of clones in the city. In addition to the thousands of clones that would give him physical power, he had also left Sakura, whom he had taught a healing technique based on Kurama's chakra that she could already use. This jutsu could heal almost any wound and almost anyone, as long as they had at least a thread of life and weren't affected by a poisonous jutsu or something similar. Sasuke and Hinata would also be there to help, but Naruto didn't think Hinata would use her lightning needle, which would kill anyone who got it. Using the regular needles would be enough. A few minutes later, Gaara was done changing. He was now a big, fat raccoon. Naruto went with him to start a bice fight. To do this, he used the chakra cloak to make an avatar the same size as him. Some of their enemies caught up to them, but when they saw the fight between Tails, Claws, and Baidamas, they ran for their lives. Gaara was there because Naruto brought him there so he could use all of his power without hurting anyone. Gaara held on for an hour before he lost control of Shukaku, who barely showed his face. Kurama put a paw on his head, and they all appeared in a circle of light about 100 meters in diameter surrounded by darkness. Shukaku yelled, "Kurama!" "Shukaku," Kurama said in a cold way. "I think we can talk now, Brother Panda," Naruto said with a smile. He looked at Kurama, while Gaara looked at Shukaku. Gaara gritted his teeth, and quickly flashing images of his past started to appear behind him. "Brother Panda, it looks like your life has been hard, but that doesn't mean you can't build a future," Naruto said as he started to explain his plan for the bice. "What the hell do I get out of this? If you take the beach from me, I'll die and the arena won't have its most important weapon. Gaara asked with a growl after he had told him everything. Shukaku growled, I'm not a weapon. You're not one either, though you have had some effect. Most Jinchurikis are renegade ninjas these days, and Naruto said, if you can't keep your village safe with your own power, you need a different system. That system is the Bijus, Gaara said with a snarl. No, the Bijus were made for something else, and keeping the peace is not what they were made for. Using them in the way they do now only puts this world in danger, Naruto said, and images of the Sutsukis appeared behind him. Kurama and Shukaku were both taken aback. Kurama asked, how do you know them? Shukaku was surprised and asked, are there more of those guys? All they knew was Kaguya. There are more, and these may not even be all of them. These are probably the strongest, Naruto said, and then he told them everything he knew about Kaguya and the Sutsukis. Gaara asked, do you mean we're doomed? Also, he said, if the Bijus aren't useful, why let them go? The Bijus are made of chakra. Hagoromo made them like this because he thought that would be enough, or maybe he couldn't make them into flesh-based creatures. After all, they were the 10 tails chakra. As for me, I think I can give them bodies so they can protect our world from destruction, Naruto said. Peace between the ninja villages is easy. They need to join together, whether by force or through alliances, Naruto said. Gaara stared at him with doubt. Gaara said, you have a lot of faith in yourself. Partially, but I think there are more people who care about peace and don't want their loved ones to die in a war, Naruto said. Images of his brothers appeared behind Gaara. Gaara got angry and turned red when Naruto smiled. I hadn't thought of them, Gaara said with a snort. That's right, Brother Panda, said Naruto. Kurama laughed, and Naruto reached out to Gaara. Gaara, I've told you before that you can make your own future. And there are people, including myself, who will accept you and shake your hand. In my case, it's because I know you won't give up if you join my side, Naruto explained. Gaara said, I don't know anything about being in charge, but he didn't take his hand. Then find out. Now, all you have to do is stand up and take my hand. How well you do or whether you succeed or not won't affect our friendship, Naruto said. After hesitating for a minute, Gaara walked up to him and shook his hand. Kurama wiggled one of his tails and put it over his hands. Shukaku grunted in doubt, but Kurama pushed on him with his chakra, and he quickly put his tail down. Shukaku, I need something from you before you leave, Naruto said with a smile that showed all of his teeth. A minute later, Shukaku screamed in pain as Naruto cut off a quarter of his tail. As Shukaku disappeared, leaving an exhausted Gaara alone, Naruto shrank back to his normal size and pulled out a seal scroll to seal the tail he had cut off before it spread out and turned into chakra. Naruto was still wearing the Kaibi mantle, Sage Mode, and 2 open gates, but he was still not tired. The Hokage needs your help, Naruto. An enemy has made a seal around the fighting arena, and we can't break it, and Anbu told him when everything was safe again. Then let's go, Naruto said as he wrapped one of his tails around Gaara, who growled but couldn't move. As another tail wrapped around him, the Anbu tensed up. You're too slow, Naruto said, and then he sped off toward the village, leaving a trail of broken trees in his wake. The arena wasn't in the city, so it wasn't hard for him to get there. In just a few seconds, he and 5 other Anbu who were watching the situation with Kakashi and Guy showed up. Orochimaru's seal had covered almost all of the arena, but some people had already gotten away. Those who were still there were prisoners who were being watched by 20 of his clones who also wore the Kaibi's mantle. There were about 50 arena ninja in prison, as well as the bodies of sound ninja. When Kakashi saw that Naruto was holding Gaara in one of his tails, he asked, "Is that you?" Naruto let go of the Anbu and gave Gaara over to Kakashi. The cage has been killed by Orochimaru. I don't think the arena will be willing to fight now, Naruto said. Gaara groaned as Kakashi held him and used his beej to stop him from moving. Guy said, "That's why you didn't kill her, ninja." Naruto gave a nod. An Anbu asked, do you think you can break that seal? It depends. Do you think that seal can hold the Kyuubi? Naruto asked. Right away, he jumped up and changed into the Kurama avatar. He landed on the seal with his claws and tried to break it, but it held out for 5 seconds against the combined power of Kurama, Sage Mode, and 2 of the 8 gates. 10 of his clones showed up to deal with Orochimaru's 5 guards while Naruto shrank and made more than 100 copies of himself. These opened 4 gates and rushed at full speed at Orochimaru, who had used Edo Tensei to bring the first and second Hokage back to life, or at least to a sort of half-life. Even though it was a wooded area, the clones moved quickly and caught the first and second Hokage with their tails, absorbing their chakra and stopping them from moving or using jutsu. Then they started to close them up. Hiruzen, it looks like you didn't do everything wrong, said the second Hokage as the clones put the 8 trigram seal on him in the first. Orochimaru, who was being pulled there by 10 clones, said, the Jinchuriki. Master, you don't seem to be completely crazy, said Orochimaru, who then screamed helplessly as the clones poured a lot of red chakra into his body. When Orochimaru screamed, Naruto put out his hand and reached into his throat to pull out a sword. This is mine. Now you can die, Naruto said as a Baidama formed between his 9 tails and the clones holding Orochimaru jumped into the air. No! Yelled the old third Hokage as he tried to help, but before he could move, 5 clones held him down. You're old, old man. After this, I hope you'll quit. You are no longer fit to be Hokage, Naruto said with a sigh as the third Hokage turned away, not wanting to see how the Baidama rose into the sky behind the clones and Orochimaru, who was trying to break free but was being sealed and couldn't do any jutsu. The Baidama reached the clones and Orochimaru 200 meters above them and wiped them out of existence. Naruto nodded. His Sage Mode and the Kyuubi's ability to see people's intentions told him it was true. The third Hokage cried as everything in his world shook. Good job, kid. Don't hesitate on your way, said Tobirama as the Edo Tensei fell apart and his body started to turn into sand. Don't forget, little boy, that your heart will always be the most important thing, said Hashirama, who was also turning to dust. I'll listen to both of you, but I'll go my own way, Naruto said as he bowed to the 2 cages. The cages smiled and then disappeared. 2 of Orochimaru's servants were killed as sacrifices for the Edo Tensei and their bodies were put in their place. Naruto looked at their dead bodies and then at the older Hokage, who was ashamed and turned away as the clones freed him. Elder, don't you dare doubt if I ever did the same thing, Naruto said. In his memories, Orochimaru was the perfect bad guy, but he turned out to be a joke in the end. He was now a scary person, and through his cursed seal, he had also left behind a way to bring him back to life. 6 Anbu, including Kakashi and Guy, came to the scene after the explosion. Kakashi asked, Orochimaru? As he looked at the 2 dead bodies on the ground. Naruto didn't answer, he just looked up, and Kakashi nodded silently because he knew how close Naruto was to the Hokage. The Anbu looked tense and didn't want to be there, but in the end, one of them kneeled down in front of the third Hokage, whose eyes were downcast, as if he was expecting bad news. Still, he bowed his head to give his report. Hokage-sama, we didn't do enough to get ready, and the enemy forces were bigger than we thought. Luckily, the Jinchuriki came to our aid, and the arena attackers were caught. All of Orochimaru's helpers, on the other hand, were killed. We don't have any dead or hurt people because the Jinchuriki took care of everyone. He even brought some people back to life. I can't bring people back to life because they were never dead. Even though their organs no longer worked, their cells were still alive. Naruto said, I just got their organs to work again. I have also not killed all of Orochimaru's helpers. They are taking his 4 personal guards to the route to find out where they hide. An army like his doesn't just show up out of thin air, Naruto said. Where is it? The Hokage asked Naruto in an alarmed voice, do you have a deal with Danzo? The Anbu tensed up, and Kakashi and Guy grimaced. The Hokage stared at them all with no expression. Danzo is a traitor, and I also caught him when he tried to run away from the battle. I'm in charge of the route for now, Naruto said, since no one else seemed to want to tell them. What? Asked the third Hokage. Hokage-sama, the traitor Danzo was caught using illegal jutsu to put parts of other ninja into his body, said the reporting Anbu, not daring to say more. Danzo put parts of the first Hokage's body and the Sharingans and eye of Hisui Uchiha into his own body. When I was trying to catch him, he tried to use it against me, but it didn't work because he was only fighting my clones. He was eventually put in jail. I then took control of the seal he had on the route Anbu, and he and his Anbu are being held as prisoners in the route headquarters right now. I think he'll want to keep it in his hands, but if that's the case, I'll also keep the parts from other ninja that he put in. Naruto said, I don't think those things should leave the route HQ. The third Hokage clenched his teeth, but the information was clear. I want to talk to Danzo, but you don't need to take him out of the route, Hiruzen said. He didn't want Danzo to be cut up, and he couldn't make him go out in public with the parts of other ninjas in his body. That would be bad for the village because it would mean that the people in charge were using the dead for something else. Naruto, we'll talk about how you feel about this in a council, said the third Hokage, but it was clear that the news had broken his heart. First, the death of his favorite disciple, and now the fall of his best friend, who for his crimes would surely be put to death. Naruto also knew that this was only the tip of the iceberg because Orochimaru and Danzo had been working together for a long time. Come on, Naruto said. After 10 minutes, his group got to the entrance to the route headquarters, where Danzo was being watched by 2 of his clones. Due to Hashirama's cell grafts, Danzo looked younger than the third Hokage, even though he was in his middle years. He was on his knees now, and one of his eyes was gone. Even though his body was sealed and his chakra couldn't move, he was still aware. One of Naruto's clones took the cloak off his right arm, which was full of Sharingans and had a face of Hashirama on one shoulder. Danzo. How could you? The third Hokage snarled, but his words didn't sound angry. Instead, they were full of helplessness and sadness. Again, the Naruto clone covered his arm so that no one would accidentally see him. Danzo said to Hiruzen, what I've done for the village. He didn't seem sorry. Now tell your pet to let me go and give me back control of the route, Danzo said. Naruto could see that he had already given up, so now all he wanted was to keep his honor. Even the third Hokage saw Naruto and looked at him. Keep Danzo alive, the third Hokage asked. The route won't change or carry out any sentences now that I'm just a watchman, Naruto said. Danzo is not like Orochimaru, who was already judged, Naruto said. He needed Danzo to give him a lot of information. The third Hokage gave him a nod. A few hours later, the leaders of the clans, the Hokage and his advisors, the most powerful ninja in the village, and Naruto were all sitting around a large rectangular table. There were also 4 Anbu, 2 behind the Hokage and 2 behind Naruto. The ones behind the Hokage were guards, while the ones behind Naruto were part of the route. Hokage-sama, I think before we start this meeting you should give us some explanations, said Shikaku Nara, head of the Nara clan. Other clan chiefs nodded, looking at Naruto. 6 months ago, the Jinchuriki was just a schoolboy, but now he is part of this meeting and is the head of the route, said Shikaku cautiously. The Hokage stiffly nodded when Naruto looked at him. Naruto also looked around and nodded. I'm not the route boss. I just took over the seal that the previous boss, Danzo, kept on the route Anbu. At this meeting, we'll decide who the next route boss will be, and I'll give the seal to that person, Naruto said. As for my rapid advancement in power, I think everyone or most of you here already know my training method. If you were referring to my knowledge, my parents, the 4th Hokage, Namikaze Minato, and the previous Jinchuriki, Kushina Uzumaki, sealed part of their consciousness into me and I now possess a great deal of knowledge.
They have not bequeathed me great techniques, but my knowledge in some things can surpass most of you, Naruto explained.
You were able to do it because you knew how to move around in the room, Shikaku said. Naruto shook his head. The technique was part of my memories, but I only knew it existed. The movement technique that I used was developed by myself, said Naruto, because he who knew the original technique would certainly recognize that they were not the same, so it made no sense to lie. It's the same, but not the same, Kakashi said. The third one said simply, it's not the same. Shikaku nodded, realizing that the fourth Hokage's friends didn't want to talk about him. Inoichi Yamanaka asked, how come the Beige listen to you? Kurama doesn't obey me, we are allies and protect each other. Although he is indifferent to the protection of this village, as it is my wish to protect it, he has lent me his strength to do so, said Naruto. On what do you base your alliance?
Questioned the Hokage.
Matters that aren't important to the ninja villages. The Beige don't care about humans.
As I've already said, it was my idea, not Kurama's, to use their power in this fight.
In fact, he hates them all, especially the former and Madara Uchiha, who has controlled him more than once.
What do you do that has nothing to do with people?
The Hokage insisted. Things are very dangerous. If I fail, I will die like Kurama, but that won't happen right now. I still have some time to get ready, maybe a few decades. I will ask for a favor if any of you are still alive by then and can help me. One of the Hokage's advisors said in a cold voice, this is not the time to talk about things outside of the village. This meeting is an emergency. It was Kaharu Udatane, an old woman who was the second Hokage's student and had a lot of power in the village. Kakashi frowned. He seemed to want to know more about Naruto and Kurama's relationship, but he didn't say anything. One of the Hokage's Anbu stepped forward and gave a full report on what happened when the village was attacked and what was done to stop it. As Naruto thought, when he called Gaara his brother, the Anbu and JNIN realized that Gaara was another Jinchuriki. If he was there, the arena was probably planning something. The situation got worse when Hayate found out that Kabuto, a village traitor, was meeting with the arena. The Hokage told the guards to watch the guests and patrol the area around the village in case enemy forces were moving. But in the end, nothing helped because the attackers were already in the village. If Naruto hadn't left more than 10,000 clones in the village, a lot of people, both villagers and ninjas, would have died. But because Naruto helped, the arena ninjas were caught and all of the sound ninjas were killed except for Orochimaru's 5 guards. Orochimaru also died when Naruto stepped in and blew him up with a Baidama during his fight with the third Hokage. Even though no sign of his body was found, he was thought to be dead. Most of the damage to the village was physical, like the destruction of homes and stores. A forest had grown in the test Coliseum. Naruto held the arena Jinchuriki and was able to capture him. He also killed Orochimaru. His friends Sasuke Uchiha, who was thought to be Orochimaru's target, Sakura Haruno, and Hinata Hyuga also did a lot to protect and save civilians. Shikamaru Nara and Shino Aburame also caught Temari and Kankuro, 2 of Gaara's allies who were genin. The rest of the report talked about how the clan chiefs and JNIN, like Kakashi, Kurenai, Asuma, and Guy, worked together. This time, we didn't have much to do, Shikaku Nara said with a groan. Don't mention me, those kids took care of everything, said Akamichi Shiza, the head of the Akamichi clan. Naruto, how did you find out about the invasion and make sure you were ready for it? Inoichi Yamanaka asked him. Before I can explain this, I need to explain one of my powers as a Jinchuriki, Naruto said. Anyone in this room can leave, make a shadow clone, and then come back. I'll tell you who the real one is. Hiyashi Hyuga hit the table with his fist. This isn't a show, you rude brat. Speak up. Yelled Hiyashi Hyuga, the leader of the Hyuga clan. Father-in-law, if you believe me, be honest. There's no need to lie to look like a tough guy, Naruto said. Hiyashi Hyuga tried to jump on him, but the clan leaders next to him held him back and put him in his place. Be quiet. Homura Mitokado was reprimanded by Homura Mitokado, the Hokage's second advisor and one of his old friends and a very powerful elder. Hiyashi held his breath and gritted his teeth. Naruto just gave a simple shrug. Explain, the counselor said. Naruto nodded and looked at him, then pointed at the counselor, the counseloress, and Hiyashi Hyuga. Both counselors want me to leave this place, and they dislike and even hate me a little. My father-in-law seems happy that I'm gone, but he's afraid of breaking the rules of the village, so he won't do anything against me, Naruto said. As a Jinchuriki, I can see how people feel and what they are thinking. If those emotions and feelings are directed at me, I can understand them much better. That's why, ever since the first arena ninja came to this village with hostile intentions, I could feel it. I knew about the attack and where all the attackers were, even if they were hidden, disguised, or using some other trick. As long as they felt hostile toward the village, I was able to find them, Naruto said. That's why it was easy for me to recognize Brother Panda. Shukaku inside was angry, Naruto said.
And if you're wondering, yes, I can also tell if someone is lying or telling the truth based on their intentions, but I would have to concentrate.
Everyone at the table was shocked when they saw him. All of them needed a few seconds to get back to normal, and some even swallowed saliva. That's an interesting skill, Guy said in an uneasy way. That's right, I can sense intentions, so it's almost impossible to spy on me without me knowing, Sage Pervert, said Naruto. Sage Pervert appeared next to him in a cloud of smoke and hit him hard on the shoulder, breaking the chair he was sitting in. Naruto, call me Master, the wise pervert snarled. Okay, Master Pervert. May I ask what you were doing up until now? When Naruto asked, Jiraiya hit him hard again. Master is fine, he grunted. I was looking into something outside of the village, but I came back as soon as I heard the noise, but everything was already under control, he lied to get out of it. Master, you just saw that the situation was complicated, so you didn't want to get close, Jiraiya cut him off with more clapping and big laughs. Jiraiya said in a serious voice, Naruto is always making jokes, but this is a serious meeting. Now, let's move on, he said, nodding and crossing his arms behind him. His stance was both a threat and an offer of help. If Naruto tried to fight him in any way, Jiraiya was ready to beat him, but if he kept quiet, he could help him. The elder advisor asked Jiraiya, is this cocky boy your disciple? Actually, he's my godson. His parents gave me care of him. He's a bit rebellious, but his father was like a son to me, so he's kind of like my grandson. I can't help but be lenient with his discipline, Jiraiya said. The clan chiefs and older advisors both blinked. Jiraiya had also made them and the clan leaders afraid. Naruto was surprised by what he did, because this guy always tried to get out of his responsibilities. Then let's keep going, the third Hokage said to break the tension. Danzo, the old advisor woman said through her teeth. All of the people looked at Naruto. Naruto gave a nod. One of my clones picked up on a hostile presence near the village and followed it to the secret route headquarters, where Danzo was leading a group of Anbu. It looked like their plan was to hide and do nothing until the situation got better. If that was all there was to it, the clone would have just thought it was a case of cowardice, but Danzo ran away as soon as the attack started, and his troops were already there. This made it look like treason, so the clone called for help. The clone didn't know anything about the Anbu who were with Danzo. All it knew was that it had to obey. He thought that if he caught Danzo, the problem would be solved right away, so he attacked him. But Danzo used a jutsu on the clone to control it. Luckily, it was just a clone, and there was a way to destroy it if it fell under a genjutsu, which is exactly what happened. After this short fight, 2,000 more clones came and captured Danzo, while the Anbu who tried to help him were rendered helpless. The old woman hit the table with her fist, which broke. The noise stopped her story. 2,000 clones? She asked Naruto. Did you think we were stupid? Did you just happen to have 2,000 clones near Danzo? Old woman, I can change this story, but I would agree that it is best for the village, Naruto said in a serious tone. The clan leaders thought for a few seconds and then, after making a lot of grimaces, nodded to say that Naruto could keep going. The old woman didn't say anything. Well, after catching Danzo, the clones told him that he could either have his head cut off or give up the root control seal. He decided to give up the seal and even changed it so that I could use it. I would do the same thing if you decided to give my job to someone else. If this seal isn't there, the Root Anbu will be free to talk about Danzo. Also, since I captured Danzo, I've been questioning him and have sealed his chakra to stop him from kicking me out of his mind. Using this method and Kurama's pressure on his mind, I have found out some of his actions. Once I unlock the seals on his mind, everyone will be able to see him, Naruto said and started to list Danzo's crimes. Danzo gave Orochimaru the kids he used in his experiments with Hashirama cells. Danzo also paid for all the costs of his experiments, which he did on his own. Even after Orochimaru left the village, he and Danzo stayed in touch, and Danzo always helped him out. Orochimaru gave Danzo an arm with Hashirama cells in it so that he could use the Sharingan. Danzo is one of the people who started Akatsuki. He stole one of Hisui Uchiha's eyes and stirred up trouble in the Uchiha clan, then sent Itachi Uchiha to kill them all so that he could take their Sharingan. Danzo and Orochimaru also worked together to kill the third Hokage and the elites who supported him so. That's just a summary, Naruto said, and everyone fell silent. Even the advisors didn't say anything, even though everyone knew that Danzo's head and Orochimaru weren't the only ones responsible there. After this meeting, I'll step down as Hokage and spend the rest of my life with my grandson, said the Hokage, who looked older and weaker than ever. Unless this meeting decides that I should take more responsibility in this matter, he added, but the clan leaders quickly shook their heads and looked at him, but he didn't say anything. A good leader must trust his or her followers, but he or she must also be responsible for doing so. Naruto said in a cold tone, I think the third Hokage has already shown how responsible he is, so there's nothing else to say. Then it's up to us to decide who will take over for Danzo at the root, Shikaku said. Any volunteers? So he asked. Hiyashi Hyuga said, I think Kakashi should take that job. The other elder advisors quickly agreed, and Kakashi looked at them with fear. Naruto said, I think I'm the best person for that job because I have the skills, the knowledge, the power, and I also have a special skill for it. Naruto, you are 12, Hiyashi snarled. Father-in-law, if you humiliate yourself, no one will tell you off, but if you humiliate others, people at this meeting might get mad at you. And since I don't like you, I'll let them beat you however they want, Naruto said. Hiyashi jumped up again, and the clan leaders rushed to hold him down, while the old woman hit the table to get everyone to calm down. The Hokage asked Naruto, if you become root chief, what will be the first thing you do? Find out where Orochimaru's hideouts are, capture his subordinates, steal all his research, burn all evidence, and leave no traces so that other villages can't use what our ninja have died for. Once we're sure of everything, I'll start looking into what Danzo and Orochimaru were up to. When I'm done, I'll use the Root's resources and their access to secret information to set up my own lab. My medical skills will improve quickly, and I'll be able to start my research into why they were interested in Hashirama's cells and the Sharingan. Of course, that's not the only thing I'm interested in. Why the hell shouldn't we cut off your head along with Danzo's? Asked the old woman, angry. Naruto gave her a cold look. I didn't catch Danzo or Orochimaru so they could do their jobs. Danzo was caught for treason because he stole and killed children and used parts of ninja who died serving this village to increase his own power and get ahead in politics. The same things made me kill Orochimaru. Naruto looked at Kakashi and said, I'm a medical ninja, and I'm very interested in everything to do with medicine. Because of this, my medical jutsu is better than anyone else's in this village, and I did it without hurting or killing anyone, which is exactly what I plan to do now. Kakashi-sensei, you know I took samples from your eye. Do you think it's wrong for me to study those samples? Naruto asked. Kakashi blinked and then shook his head, but didn't say anything else. Naruto looked at the old woman. Counselor, Danzo, and Orochimaru all wanted to be in charge. I don't think that's wrong. My friends and I all want power, too. In this world of ninjas, it has to happen. What is wrong with them is how they do things, Naruto said coldly. Guy nodded. Naruto was able to. Kakashi poked Guy in the side, and he stopped talking, even though everyone was looking at him and asking for an answer. Ignore what I just said, he said. Naruto, what are you going to do with the research Orochimaru and Danzo did? Will you put parts from other ninjas into your own body? Questioned the Hokage. Old man, I told you before that if I ever act like Orochimaru and Danzo, don't ask stupid questions or think about the past. Just act, Naruto said seriously, disgusted by the thought of acting like Danzo. Hiyashi Hyuga asked, so, what do you plan to do with his investigation? Naruto looked at Kakashi. Naruto asked Kakashi-sensei if he had seen Sakura use medical jutsus during the attack on the village. Kakashi said yes. She used Kyuubi chakra more than once, Kakashi said. The ninja, clan chiefs, elder advisors, and even the Hokage looked at him in surprise. I didn't give her Kyuubi chakra, and there's nothing of the Kyuubi inside her either. In fact, what Kakashi saw wasn't Kyuubi chakra, it was Sakura's own chakra mimicking the Kyuubi's nature, which is a technique I've developed. In the end, the user only uses his own chakra, and some of it is lost in the change of nature, but for a medical ninja, the speed of tissue regeneration and chakra recharge that can be. Shikaku came to a logical conclusion when he asked, do you think the bloodlines can be copied? Naruto said, it's not a belief. I've already proven it with the white eye. Hiyashi turned pale and said, of course, it's a waste of time, so I won't waste my time on that. The clan leaders stopped Hiyashi again. Naruto smiled at him and said, my research on how to use an imitation of Kurama's chakra is more valuable to the village. Sakura can use it, but she has the best chakra control of anyone. It would be very hard for other medical ninja to learn. On the other hand, using this technique uses up a lot of chakra, so I'd rather study the cells of the first. It would be a big step forward if I could copy its effects, Naruto said. That would have very bad results, said the old counselor. Naruto gave a nod. It's possible, but I won't know until I look into it. The Hokage will decide whether to publish it or not. So far, Sakura is the only one who knows about the new medical jutsu. If it gets to other villages, that could be bad for us as well. But that doesn't mean I'll stop looking into it. It's just that if the Hokage wants, you won't find out anything. Naruto said, in fact, we're only talking about this now because the Hokage asked me to. Remember that everything the root does is a secret. The chiefs of the clan frowned. The old advisor growled, you might be a good fit for the job, and the old man reluctantly nodded. The leaders of the Akamichi, Nara, Yamanaka, and Inuzuka clans all nodded as well. Hiyashi did not agree, but he made it clear that it was personal by grunting. The same was true for Kakashi, Guy, and Kurenai. Even though the other JNIN didn't vote, that was enough for Naruto to become the new root boss. By the time it got dark, Naruto was touring the Anbu barracks on the dungeon floor, where Danzo, his Anbu, Orochimaru's 5 guards, and Orochimaru himself were being questioned by their clones. Orochimaru had a jutsu that was too important to lose, so Naruto was not going to kill him. This jutsu was the body-switching jutsu. It wasn't as advanced as the Sutsuki's Dharma seal, but it was even more useful because it could be used at any time. And Naruto wasn't going to let Orochimaru die without getting that jutsu out of his head. Naruto went into the main and most secret room of the Anbu, which was Orochimaru's interrogation room. The room was 10 meters by 5 meters, and in the middle, Orochimaru was locked up in a sealed sphere of water. In turn, he was wrapped in bandages that went from head to toe and covered every hair on his body. 20 of his clones crowded around the water sphere and tried to get information from Orochimaru's mind. Naruto checked the seals on his own and went to a bigger room that looked the same, but inside the sphere there were 5 bodies instead of 1. They were guards for Orochimaru and Kabuto, who were not normal people. Kabuto knew a lot of useful things, and Naruto was interested in the bloodlines of the 4 guards. First, there were Sakin and Yukon. They shared a body because they were related by blood, but they were more than that. They could get into anyone's body and change things at the level of the cells. This bloodline would help him when he had to change the way his blood was built. Second, there was Tayuya, whose sound-based genjutsu was unlike anything else in this world. Naruto wanted to learn more about it. Lastly, Naruto looked at Danzo's interrogations of his prisoners, the Root Anbu. He would try to figure out what was going on in their heads until he knew who could be set free and who was more than just a puppet. The Hokage cleaned out his office the next day, and an emergency meeting was called to choose the new Hokage. Naruto took part in the meeting because he was put in charge of the Anbu. Because he was made Root Chief and worked to keep the village safe, he was made a JNIN and given the official uniform. The feudal lord of the Fire Country, several scribes, the 2 elder counselors, the Anbu captain of the 3rd, and Shikaku, the military advisor, were all at the meeting. The feudal lord, or daimyo, had no say in how the village ran, and he couldn't even vote on whether or not to go to war with other villages. You could say that Konoha was completely independent, but this was only on the surface. The Leaf Village was located in the Fire Country, and the feudal lord gave them this territory as a benefit. The feudal lord was also the village's main backer, and if there was an emergency, it was his money that was spent. As Konoha was a military village that depended on the Fire Country's economy, most of the military contracts that came to the village came from the Fire Country. So, in theory, Konoha was independent, and a Hokage could do anything without the feudal lord's permission. However, the feudal lord had the power to cut off all economic ties with the village. The feudal lord could ask other villages for military help, stop their merchants from coming to Konoha, stop their lords from asking for their help by giving them missions, and stop them from being his patrons. This would be a real disaster for a village that didn't contribute to the economy of the country. What happened to the Sand Village was exactly this. Their Kazekage lost his mind and argued with his feudal lord, which caused the lord to stop giving them money and leave them in ruins. They had to come up with a plan to destroy Konoha so that some lords and Orochimaru would help them. Orochimaru promised them more help if Konoha fell, but their own feudal lord would have less options. Because of all of this, Konoha wasn't really independent, and the daimyo's opinion was very important when choosing a Hokage, since he would give the candidate his patronage if he liked them and thought they would do a good job. So, when the feudal lord said at the meeting that Kakashi should be made Hokage, the elders tensed up and rushed to suggest Jiraiya. Naruto knew Jiraiya would say no, so he chose Tsunade as Hokage instead. This was a better choice, since Tsunade is the granddaughter of the first Hokage, who started the village. The daimyo looked at him after agreeing to what the elders wanted to do. The daimyo said, "So Danzo was really hurt in the attack, and I see that his replacement is quite young. Naruto Uzumaki is one of the strongest ninja in this village, and he was the only one who carried out the best plan to defend against the Sand and Sound Village's attack. He was also the one who killed Orochimaru in the end," Shikaku said, and both elders nodded. Uzumaki was a famous clan in the past, and he looks kind of familiar to me," the daimyo said as he blew on himself with his left hand and rubbed his chin with his right. Naruto is the son of Namikaze Minato, the 4th Hokage, and Kushina Uzumaki, Shikaku said. "Ah, the young yellow lightning," the daimyo said with a smile. "That explains what happened at the Chunin exam. My advisors couldn't figure out how to use that well-known jutsu. It looks like the future of the village will be good," he said with a calm smile. Naruto nodded and gave a formal hand salute to accept the good sign. He didn't say anything else, though, because he was sure that this person wouldn't like what he had planned for the future. The daimyo's smile, which made him look relaxed, was also a threat. It told him that the daimyo knew where he came from and told him not to go too far. After the meeting was over, Naruto went straight to the Root headquarters, where 500 of his clones were doing administrative work. They were all using Sage Mode, which uses natural energy to keep techniques going forever. Also, this made his senses work better and gave him the ability to learn as much as possible from Danzo's files in the shortest amount of time. Naruto moved through the barracks, where he could only see clones because he had sent all of the Root members he had decided to let go on a mission. Most of them were leading and communicating with an army of 10,000 clones that was going to attack Orochimaru's bases. With the Kyuubi's chakra and Sage Mode turned on, Naruto was able to make over 30,000 clones that, with Sage Mode, could last forever. He and Kurama were able to take over a ninja village on their own this way. Because of this, he thought that the Shadow Clone's jutsu was the most powerful and had the most potential of any jutsu in history. No matter what jutsu he remembered, like the Rinnegan, the Sharingan, the Tenseigan, or even the divine techniques the Otsutsukis used, they were all small compared to the Shadow Clone's jutsu. As Naruto grew up and got stronger, this jutsu would only make him even stronger in a huge way. Other jutsu became less useful over time, but the Shadow Clone's jutsu could be used indefinitely. No matter how strong he was, being able to make Shadow Clones would always make him stronger. There were 8 gates that the Shadow Clones could use without any trouble to join up with other Shadow Clones and get around their physical limitations. Guy was able to take on Kisame, a ninja with a power like a Biju, by using the 8 gates. It's important to remember that Guy was just a person. He didn't have any bloodlines that gave him special abilities or made his body better. His success came from the hard work he put into training his body. Even so, he had been able to use the 8 gates to let out terrifying power. If his clones could also use the 8 gates, he could use this power to attack his enemies with an army of 30,000 clones. With just that, Madara would be easy to beat, and he would be just as easy to hurt as Orochimaru. So strong was the Shadow Clone's jutsu when it was used right. In terms of power, there was no other power in history that could compare to it. This was the kind of power he could use at any time. With the Sage Mode, the clones could keep going for as long as they wanted. They could eat natural energy and get stronger every day to make up to 30,000 more clones. So, when he added Kurama's power to his own, he became the strongest ninja in the world. But the problem was that Naruto didn't just want to be the strongest ninja. He wanted to be a god and didn't want to depend on Kurama to get there. He wanted his own power, and now that he had Orochimaru, Danzo, and other valuable pieces, he had all the information he needed. He just had to wait. All of this was, of course, for the future. At the moment, he could only deal with the Akatsuki in pain, and only with Kurama's help. He was only as strong as a Jonin or a weak Kage, like the third Hokage, on his own. But his quest for power was starting now, Naruto thought with a smile as he walked into a big lab that looked more like a warehouse. 7 people were locked in seals, which were metal boxes that held their whole bodies but left their heads free. Their heads were covered with talismans. 4 guards for Orochimaru, Danzo, Kabuto, and Orochimaru himself made up the group of 7. Around them, 35 clones in Sage Mode, covered by Kurama's cloak, were touching the prisoners' heads to find out everything they knew. As Naruto got closer, one of the clones made another clone that shot out like a bullet, showing that a new lair had been found. Naruto was happy. He had also heard from the clones that were doing research several times. When these clones had learned as much as they could, they would make a new copy of themselves and undo their own jutsu. Naruto looked at the new room his clones had made on a new floor of the Anbu Barracks subway. He was sure that only he could get to it because the only way to get there was with the space movement jutsu. He was happy with how things were going and left the barracks to go to his daily training, which included physical exercises, chakra control, medical jutsu practice, taijutsu, and chakra nature control. Would you like to come with me on a trip, Naruto? When Jiraiya showed up at his training camp, he asked. Naruto asked, what kind of trip? Even though he already knew the answer. Jiraiya said that they were going to get Tsunade because she was going to be the next Hokage. Naruto agreed to go with him on the trip, which would happen the next day. His job as leader of the Anbu and the looting of Orochimaru's secret bases wouldn't be affected in any way, because Kurama's Sage Mode meant that he didn't have to renew the clones. Naruto and Jiraiya took a month to find Tsunade on their journey. They didn't meet Akatsuki on the way, and Akatsuki didn't attack the village, either. It looked like the ninja world already knew about them, and they wouldn't go crazy until they thought they were strong enough to face a Jinchuriki who had full control of their beach. Naruto could only laugh at how dull they were. By the time they thought they were ready to fight him, he would already be a god. Even though Jiraiya taught him for a month, his strength and stamina didn't grow much more than they had in the months he trained on his own. But he was on a whole different level when it came to technique, speed, agility, taijutsu, and the way he did jutsu. Jiraiya also called on Dad and Mom. the elder toads, to teach him how to do genjutsu right. Even though Naruto was still slow, that didn't mean his genjutsu was weak. It was based on controlling the chakra of his enemies, and Sage Mode and Kurama gave him a very good sense of that. Also, genjutsu wasn't what interested him. He was more interested in defense, and if he did more research, he'd soon be immune to it. Naruto didn't forget about his responsibilities in the village, either. Every day, he sent a clone to report to his clones in charge in the village. In return, the clones in charge of the village would tell him what was going on. He would make a clone to find out the details and then get rid of it. This way, he knew what was going on in Konoha, where peace was the norm. The Sand Village had agreed to be part of a peace alliance, which meant that they would get financial help and share information they had learned from their surroundings. Due to how close the villages were to each other and how expensive food was in the Sand Village, Naruto had asked for them to start a small trade. Another thing going on in Konoha village that was directly related to this was the building of a huge lab where all the artifacts and research materials taken from Orochimaru were put together. Some of these resources were test subjects who had the cursed seal put on them and on whom different genetic experiments were done. Naruto didn't want to do what Orochimaru did, but they couldn't leave the village with what Orochimaru had given them. Naruto's job was to undo what Orochimaru had done to them, especially taking away the cursed seal. Because 10,000 clones were working on this, he had made a lot of progress. Every night at midnight, the clones would undo their own technique and give all the knowledge they had learned to Naruto. Then, using Sage Mode and Chakra Mode, he would make another clone with enough chakra to make another 10,000 clones and send it back to the village using the reversal jutsu so they could keep working. His research didn't stop for a second because he used clones in a totally broken way. Each time the clones were taken apart and put back together, the knowledge they had gained individually was concentrated. Naruto still cared about Gaara, so he sent a clone to the arena to train him properly. Even though the panda raccoon was stubborn and told him at least 10 times a day that he would kill him if he called him panda brother, Naruto kept making fun of Gaara because he thought he was a cute kid. His clone used transformation jutsu to replace one of the ninja that Orochimaru killed so that he could stay by the panda's side. Gaara's team sensei, Kankuro, Tamari, and Baki were the only ones who knew who he really was. But they didn't bother him because he was teaching Gaara how to control his skills and the Bij. Also, Gaara and the Biju couldn't be safe from each other for years. As they kept traveling, they found Tsunade in a big city where he was gambling in a casino. She said she would talk to them as long as Jiraiya paid off some of his many gambling debts. Tsunade was in her 50s, but she looked very pretty because she used a jutsu to change her appearance permanently. She would only look her real age if she ran out of chakra. Tsunade was about average height, with a statuesque body, soft features, lively eyes, and big breasts. She had pigtails, but they were in a hybrid style because they were in the back of her head, at shoulder height, and not on the sides. Naruto knew that the mark on her forehead was a chakra seal, where she stored chakra to use in battle. Even though she was the same age as Jiraiya, Tsunade looked strange in real life, and in his memories, she looked like a shriveled old woman. People thought it was strange that she looked so old, so they thought it might be because she used some forbidden jutsu in a hard fight that made her body weak and old. Tsunade said, "I don't accept," after Jiraiya told her everything. She sighed because Orochimaru had died, but that was all. Jiraiya made a face. Tsunade looked at Naruto when he smiled. She had looked at him briefly before. "Hello, my name is Naruto Uzumaki. I'm the current root chief and the best medical ninja in the whole world of ninjas," he said, extending his hand. Naruto said, "You are the most beautiful woman I've ever met in this whole ninja world." Tsunade smiled when she heard that, even though she had tensed up when he said he was the root chief and frowned when he said he was the best medical ninja in the world. Jiraiya choked on his own saliva and gave him an angry look. "You disrespectful disciple, you have the nerve to try to beat your master?" Jiraiya yelled angrily. "Wise pervert, I'm just trying to make things clear from the beginning, so I'll give you my honest opinion," Naruto said in a proper way. Jiraiya gave him an angry look. "Brat, don't play innocent with me. I know you're bad on the inside because you flirt with other women when you're already engaged just to be impressed by a beauty. But this time, your eyes have tricked you. This woman is actually an old lady, and the way she looks is just a jutsu. Jiraiya couldn't say anything else because Tsunade hit him in the face with a right hook, sending him flying like a cannonball. Naruto didn't take his eyes off Tsunade, who did a beautiful bouncing move, and said, "Charming." Naruto smiled sincerely, so Tsunade knew he was complimenting her and not saying anything inappropriate. She bit her lip and sat down, feeling a little embarrassed. "Don't be fooled, Tsunade-sama. This boy is the boss, Shizune," a woman who looked like the average person and was holding a small pig in her arms, whispered to him. She bent down and whispered to Tsunade, but Naruto had very good hearing and heard everything. Tsunade thought about her job and got serious again. "I thought Danzo was the root boss," Tsunade said, giving him a suspicious look from head to toe. "Also, you look kind of young," she said. Naruto gave a nod. Naruto whispered, "I'm the current Jinchuriki," because they were in a restaurant and there were people around. "Also, Danzo is being accused of helping Orochimaru right now, so he won't see the sun for a long time," he said in a normal voice. Shizune and Tsunade tightened up. "Princess Tsunade, I think the reason he won't be Hokage is because of something bad that happened to him in the past." Tsunade hit the table so hard that it broke into pieces. Naruto took his hands away and kept talking. "I'm the best doctor in this ninja world. I can cure your fear of blood in an instant. All you have to do is let me try it," he said in a calm voice. Tsunade and Shizune were wary as they looked at him. Shizune said, "Tsunade-sama is the best medical ninja, so we don't need help." "That was in the past, and now I'm the best medical ninja," Naruto said. Tsunade's eyes got narrow as she looked at him. People around her and the people in charge of the place did not try to stop her or say anything because she had damaged the place. When Jiraiya flew out of a punch, they realized they were not like other people. After staring at Naruto for 30 seconds without saying anything, Tsunade laughed and got up to leave. "You can try," she said in a dismissive way, but that was an admission of guilt. Naruto stood up, left money to pay for the damage and inconvenience, and then followed the two women. After an hour, they were in a hotel, where Jiraiya was resting on a couch. Tsunade and Naruto were sitting on a rug in the middle of the room, and Shizune stood next to them to make sure Naruto didn't do anything wrong during treatment. Tsunade asked, "What do you plan to do?" "I will use a genjutsu to get rid of your fear of blood," Naruto said, but he didn't say how. Tsunade cracked up. "We've already tried that," Shizune said with a snort. "If my treatment doesn't work, we'll just leave," Naruto said. Tsunade looked at Jiraiya, who was pretending to sleep, but she didn't say anything because she agreed with him. Tsunade said, "Well, if you're so sure, I'd like to see it." Naruto just nodded and put his fingertips on the top of his head as he raised his hand. Genjutsu was based on being able to control chakra to change how the opponent's brain saw reality. Since this was the case, it made sense that controlling chakras would be easier if you touched them directly. But if they touched, it would be easier for his opponent to break the genjutsu, so at least at first, this had to be done with Tsunade's help. Once she gave him permission to control her chakra, he would be able to use it. "Just calm down," Naruto said. Tsunade instantly calmed down her body. She had a better handle on her body and chakra than Sakura. Naruto didn't waste time. He used his chakra right away to take control of Tsunade's chakra. They found themselves in a place where it was dark all around. "You have some skills," Tsunade said. "No, this isn't magic at all. It takes knowledge, strength, and a lot of practice," Naruto said. Tsunade asked, "A lot of practice?" Suddenly, they were in her training field, where she could see Naruto and her 2,000 clones training. She was shocked and opened her eyes wide, but it wasn't because she saw the clones. When Tsunade realized what kind of genjutsu he had used, she yelled, "No!" and quickly tried to take control of her chakra to get out of the genjutsu. The scene changed, the training ground went away, and they found themselves in a dark area that got bigger to show the Kyuubi standing behind him. Tsunade's surprise made Naruto smile. He's a Jinchuriki. If I don't let him, he can't control my chakra. Did you think that? Naruto asked with interest. Behind him, Kurama showed all of his teeth. A Senju, and I can smell the blood of that scumbag Hashirama, Kurama said with a wicked smile. Tsunade was shocked when she saw him. You are in the hands of the Kyuubi. Tsunade said in alarm. Naruto gave a roll of the eyes. I have an agreement with Kurama. Because of him, I was able to catch Danzo and get rid of Orochimaru, Naruto said, and his memories of that time came back. So, Tsunade realized that she had made a mistake when she gave him control of her chakra and mind. Well, show me why you're scared, Naruto said, and Tsunade stared at him in shock. But her mind worked quickly and took him straight to a forest where a ninja with long, light hair was lying on the ground covered in blood. A boy of about 12 or 13 stood next to him. Dan was once in love with Tsunade, and Nawaki was his younger brother. Tsunade was yelling. The two scenes looked the same, but they took place in different times and places. No, please, yelled Tsunade. Naruto groaned. There is only pain here, and that shouldn't make you afraid, Naruto said as he went back into the dark space. Tsunade, who was already shaking and huddled in a ball, looked at him with a blank expression. What you saw before is definitely what scared you, but I already know what scared you. I want you to know what's really going on so you can get over it. Think about it and tell me why. The traumatic memories of Tsunade's brother and boyfriend's deaths tried to come back to her, but Naruto stopped them with a wave of his hand. Naruto frowned because she couldn't get past the deaths. But that wasn't a problem because Naruto already knew the real cause of Tsunade's trauma, which was also her cure. He stopped trying to get her to move forward on her own and instead asked her right away about the most important things she remembered about her brother and her boyfriend. He was able to help Tsunade get over her trauma because he knew what had happened and how she had gotten over it. After an hour of looking at memories of her brother and her boyfriend, remembering what they wanted for their village and how she felt about it, she got over her fear and figured out what happened on her own. When they got back to the empty space, Tsunade asked, "How do you know how to do this kind of genjutsu?" Naruto didn't try to hide his memories, so he told everyone about them. They got to the point where he caught Danzo and used Kurama to control his mind so he could take control of the Anbu seal. Then, he showed how the Anbu taught him how to read minds with genjutsu and how to get around protections, which was something they were very good at. The flashbacks kept going and showed that his lab was armed and that 5 of his clones were constantly questioning the people he had locked up. There were also the captured prisoners, except for Orochimaru. Tsunade looked like she was worried. People think a lot of you. You wouldn't be able to see these memories if I didn't want to show them to you. I'm the root chief, and my mind is already a fortress of seals. Naruto told Sasuke, I'm showing you all these top secret things because you're going to be Hokage soon and you're the only one who can know about my work. Tsunade scowled, but she didn't change her mind. Tsunade asked as she looked at the captured prisoners, most of whom were deformed from Orochimaru's experiments. Are you going to do experiments on them? I can't let these people go without undoing what Orochimaru has done to them, because that would only cause more trouble in our village. Also, half of them are wanted criminals who would be killed or locked up if they left the lab. But the way I do research won't hurt them and won't put their lives in danger, Naruto said. Tsunade gave a sigh. Tsunade asked, how did you manage to control Kurama? Kurama then appeared behind Naruto. I haven't been able to get Kurama under control. Kurama and I both want to be free and to stay alive, Naruto said. Who is making you afraid for your lives? Tsunade asked, and this time a door appeared that was sealed on all sides. Before I let you look there, you should know that ignorance is bliss and that you can't do much to stop this future enemy. Before she answered, Tsunade tensed up and looked at Kurama, who glared at her. I can't do much, right? She can't do anything. Kurama gave a snort. Tsunade looked at him with anger and, more out of pride than desire, gave him a slight nod to show that she was in charge. The memory seal was broken, and Tsunade found out everything about how the ninja world began, about Kaguya and the Otsutsuki, and about how Akatsuki and Madara were involved. Lastly, it was said that the last Otsutsuki would come back in about 20 years. After half an hour, the seal shut again, and Tsunade looked at Naruto with a confused look on her face. "We're in trouble," Tsunade said. Kurama laughed to show he agreed. Naruto said, "Don't be silly. By the time they get here, my power will be much stronger than theirs. You have too much pride in yourself. You have no chance, even if you were the reincarnation of Asura," Kurama said. "Asura's power is not the only thing I will use, or at least it is not my only plan," said Naruto, who knew more about the future than they did and had a plan for dealing with the Otsutsuki when they showed up. Tsunade looked sad. Tsunade asked, "What are your plans? Will you train Sasuke Uchiha to help you?" Naruto gave a headshake. "The Sharingan and its improved version, the Rinnegan, are useful, but not much more. Also, that power makes the Uchiha feel bad. If I can't get him to calm down, the best thing to do is to leave the Emo Avenger alone. Also, you shouldn't tell him the truth right now. I'll tell you to do that when I'm done studying the Sharingan and have managed to separate it from his brain," Naruto said. Tsunade asked, "What do you think?" "Well, yes. I'm the root chief, and it's my job to figure out how to solve this problem. But it's up to you to make decisions. Same thing with telling Sasuke the truth about his past and his brother." "I'm sorry, but I won't take your blame," Naruto said. Tsunade knew that because of this, the Emo Avenger would be angry with her. She tried to hit Naruto, but he used the genjutsu and disappeared from the room in an instant. Tsunade could do nothing but watch as he disappeared before her. The next day, Naruto gave Jiraiya his final treatment. Jiraiya was grunting with anger because Tsunade had used him as a punching bag once he was gone, leaving him as bloated as a beaten pig. "Wise pervert, if you had accepted the position of Hokage, this wouldn't have happened, so it's your duty to take responsibility," Naruto said in a calm voice. He had only come back when Tsunade was no longer angry or upset. Jiraiya grunted, and they started walking back to the village around noon. At a slow pace, it took the group 3 weeks to get back to the village. Naruto didn't stop training, and Tsunade now helped him with his chakra control and medical jutsus as well. Tsunade was also interested in the jutsu that copied Kurama's chakra. She learned it quickly after Naruto told her that even ninja who didn't know Kurama could learn about his chakra. Before he got there, the lab at the root barracks was done. But his clones had been studying Orochimaru's work for more than a month, and they already understood everything he did. Orochimaru was a genius at manipulating cells, and his research could be used for cell culture and even cloning, but he didn't want to go any further because that was the extent of what he knew and what he was good at. The goal Naruto had was different. He wanted to rewrite a body from its DNA, but no one else in the world knew how to do that. But that wasn't a problem for him, because he wasn't going to change the DNA with technology. Instead, he would use chakra. He remembered that the Otsutsuki were able to do this with the mark of karma, which changed a person's DNA so much that they could make a perfect copy of the Otsutsuki and bring them back to life. That was the point of their research in the end. The Otsutsuki were not scientists and didn't care about science, of course. They only wanted power, and even though they had a tool that gave them absolute power in every world, they only used it to stay alive. It was a very powerful skill that most people didn't know about, just like the shadow clone jutsu. Naruto wasn't going to ignore the fact that this ability existed, so he made one that was the same. He knew what DNA was, and he even knew that scientists on his old world had tried to change it by using retroviruses. With all of this knowledge and his current mastery of medical jutsus, how chakra works, and other things, the only thing he didn't know how to do was control chakra. He was about to learn how to do this thanks to Tsunade's lessons in the lab artifacts that helped him improve it. A week before he and his group got to Konoha, his clones had already started studying DNA, looking for retroviruses, and studying Orochimaru's guardian twins, who were the main source of body modification. Orochimaru already had the body-switching jutsu, so once he finished his research and made a new body, he could change his current body into one that carried all of his genetic research of bloodlines.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.